Doing good, man. I just got done with my little training session for the morning, and going to grab something to eat next.
Right on. So what's new with you?
Basically, I just heard news that I've got my fight scheduled June 7th here in Sac at the Arco Arena, so I'm going to be going for that belt. I've got a title fight against Mike Brown, the guy that took it from me, so I'm looking for some redemption.
We'll definitely get back to Mike Brown, but why don't you tell us about this gym and your involvement in it?
This is actually my gym. I own this gym, and I've got one partner, and I've got a team of guys that are trainers in here that are all top level from jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing. We've got a lot of different members from different backgrounds, women, kids, and men of all ages. So it's a cool thing, man. It's a little bit of everything in here.
Great. And I've also read about you have a block of houses with a bunch of fighters in there and living. Why don't you give us a rundown of what goes on over there and who's living there and what's happening?
We've got a pretty big team here at Ultimate Fitness, Team Alpha Male, and a good portion of the guys actually live in this block. There's about 5 different houses over there, and it's a lot of fun, man. We do all sorts of crazy stuff, and we have pool and little motorbikes and all sorts of fun stuff. So we train, work here, and go hang out there on the block. Great.
So why don't you give us a rundown of some of the prospects you have in the Team Alpha Male and what they're up to?
We've got a lot of different guys. Joseph Benavides is fighting Jeff Curran. He's coming up close on a title shot for the WEC. Danny Castillo's been fighting there as well. Justin Buckles in the UFC, and I've got a host of other guys that are up and coming. Tito Jones, Chad Mendez, Walter Patterson, Mike Peterson. There's a who else is going? Ian Murphy, Casey Uscola. We've got a lot of guys that are putting in their time and just climbing the ladder.
Right. And why don't you let us know? You seem like a fighter who's obviously thinking about the future. Is that something that you've thought about, since you got into the game? And what do you see in your future for yourself after the fight?
I just plan on staying involved in the sport. I don't know whether I'm going to be coaching or running gyms or doing commentary or, doing something, but, this is my passion, so I'll be sticking around the sport and trying to make some money doing it.
And you're definitely one of the vets. Why don't you give us a rundown of the state of the game? Once you started, what you've seen, what differences you see now and such.
The biggest thing that I've seen, over the years is there's more of an understanding of the sport and more of a dedicated group of fighters that are, making it their life. When I first started, there wasn't much money in the sport and it wasn't very widely accepted. So, it's been 5-6 years now, and the sport's grown so much that people understand what it's about. More people are devoting their lives to making it something that they want to do. So, everyone's getting better. They're spending more time, and the sport's growing.
Why don't you give us a rundown of your training regimen, also your day-to-day, what you've incorporated since you started, and where you're at now?
The biggest thing is always trying to learn. So there's a lot of different aspects to the sport, anywhere from the grappling side, which is wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo. There's Muay Thai kickboxing and boxing, and then mixing it all together. And I do a little bit of that every day. I mix in some MMA sparring and some boxing and some Muay Thai and some grappling, and it just kind of fluctuates throughout the week. We have some set scheduled practices, and then we have some one-on-one sessions, and spend about 5 to 6 hours a day in the gym.
Right. You see Mike Brown's last fight against Leonard Garcia? What'd you think about it?
I thought it was good, man. He established himself as legitimate. A lot of people were looking at my fight and saying that, maybe it was a fluke or something. But the guy's talented, and he's a force to be reckoned with. So I'm ready for another battle, and this time I'm going to take it to him.
Yeah, that's my next question. So what do you see as your advantages and disadvantages against him, and how do you plan to exploit those?
I would say the disadvantage is that he's a bigger guy than I am, probably about, anywhere from 12 to 15 pounds just walking around. But the advantage is that I'm extremely strong for my size, so we're going to be about even on strength, I think, and I'm going to be a lot faster, and my conditioning is great. So it's just basically coming down to imposing my will and having my game and not getting caught.
One of the biggest aspects of the game is usually after a loss, especially a person of your nature who hasn't lost in so long, they go back to the drawing board, they change things around. When I was talking to you yesterday, you discussed that when you're fighting, you really don't think. You kind of viscerally react to what's going on in the fight. After what happened with Mike Brown, do you think you're going to change your game plan a little bit? You plan to think a little more in there, or do you think that that's your biggest strength is your ability to fight viscerally?
That's obviously a big strength of mine. You can't really change that, I don't think. What I can do is have some things in my practice that I try to incorporate now, so that when I do get into an instinctual mode, that it just comes out. And I've got some things that I want to change up a little bit. I feel like I was really jumping in a little bit too much, and that's what caught me in the end, was being careless and jumping in without looking, and really launching into one of his heavy punches. So I'll be a little bit more careful and be looking for the win, and we'll see what happens. You never really know.
Absolutely. It seems that a lot of times the athletically gifted guys, they're usually timed jumping in, and that's usually the only opportunity guys that aren't as fast and as athletically talented as them. And that's the problem, which obviously Mike Brown took advantage of. What do you see in your future? I've heard that maybe you're jumping up or down in weight. How easy is it for you to make 145?
It's very easy for me to make 145. I actually have to take some supplements to get more calories in the day, and I'm always trying to eat as much as I can. So I'm naturally about 154, 155, and I could probably make 35s. I could fight some guys at 55s. I think I've got about 7, 8 years of competitive fighting in me, so I'll probably do a lot of different things.
If the opportunity arose to fight Miguel Torres at 135, do you think you would take that?
I think so. I'd like to see him concrete himself a little bit more in there. He's got a lot of talented guys at 35s that he can be tested with right now, but I think that's a future fight for sure. Something that the fans would love to see, and I'd love to be a part of it.
That's definitely a big fight in WEC's future if you two build that up. How do you see that fight playing out if it ever does happen?
I think when you get at the top levels, it's going to be a difficult fight regardless of what weight you are. So not only is it going to be difficult to fight a 55-pounder at a top level, it'll be difficult to fight a 35-pounder and probably a 25-pounder also. Just when you're at top level like that, it comes down to extremely skilled guys. Little advantages are going to be like size and then technique. I think my wrestling's a lot stronger than his. Jiu-jitsu, we're fairly close, and then the hands were fairly close. So I think I've got a small advantage there, and I think it'd be a good matchup for me.
Great. What do you want to say to the fans in closing?
Just keep on watching, guys. I'm looking forward to putting on some great shows, and I hope you guys tune in and check us out, and check out UrijahFaber.com.